Alrighty, so I wanted to make another message because I really screwed up my first video. My message to black people. I mean, I got across some parts of my ideas in a way that I think was, effective. I'm not gonna pull the video, even though the biggest problem is I make it when I talk. It sounds like I'm generalizing. I say black people do this and black people do that, and if you look carefully in the video, I talk about how a lot of black people don't do that. And, I talk about the difference between American, black people and African black people. Well, even that isn't a clear enough distinction because obviously there's a lot of American black people who, don't follow hip hop culture. And there's a lot of decent, better hip hop culture. Hip hop culture with, with the right kind of message behind it. The early hip hop, or there was more. There was much more of a focus on the types of things that I mentioned in the video. Police brutality and the oppression of black people. It seemed like in the early days, hip hop was more conscious like that. And and I'm still not going to be a fan of that because I'm not a huge fan of rapping in general. But at least that's a message, that the black people can get behind. It's a message of solidarity and resistance, which I'm all for. But I guess I should have made it clear. I'm talking about mainstream hip hop culture more than anything. And I mean, I should read this. I had a little conversation with somebody who watches me, who I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if he wants to have his name said, but a guy who made very good points about what I was saying. I tried to be clear to him what I really meant in my comments, but not everyone's going to read my comments, and so I wanted to be specific here. The last paragraph, I think, really sort of my response to him really kind of sums up my whole feeling about it, and that is, I say, to sum up what I'm really saying in this video, the video I made before, is that black people have no reason to blame your average Joe white guy for racism, as long as, obviously, those average Joe white guys don't hold racist beliefs. But rather, the people in positions of power who have the kind of influence to perpetuate racism in a way the average Joe never could or would want to. Me being one of the average Joes, a lot of white average Joes have no interest in perpetuating racism on a massive scale. Chances are it's those people, the same powerful racist white people, that promote the kind of mainstream hip-hop culture that I can't stand because it portrays an image of black people as mindless hedonists who speak in dumbed-down slang and only care about bitches, money, and partying in the club. This is what I'm talking about. It's that group of people. I know I said black people. It was stupid for me to say that. I'm talking about mainstream hip-hop culture. Not underground hip-hop culture, not conscious hip-hop, just about the mainstream stuff. And, I wonder a lot of the times, how many, maybe it's possible, maybe I'm discriminating because, a lot of it's because I play basketball at the YMCA, and they're always playing the hip hop channel. And all I hear is lyrics about how much money they have and how many bitches they're getting and how they don't care, that girls are leaving their boyfriends for these guys, and that, it's just narcissistic, terrible music, and it's got this dumbed down sound to it. They come up with all these words that that was the other thing about it, was slang. I was talking about how the slang is exclusionary. I still believe that some of the slang is exclusionary. Maybe it's not necessarily trying to exclude whites, but I just wonder what is the impetus to keep coming up with new slang. I don't know. I've never liked slang. I realize it's kind of hypocritical for me to call out slang in the black or in the hip hop community, because we white folks have our own versions of slang. We say things like groovy, and we don't really say groovy anymore. Right on. I think that came out of the white world originally. I don't know. Maybe that didn't come out of the white world. Maybe we stole that too. We stole a lot of black culture. Most of the time when I use slang that was, say stuff like, what up or whatever, stuff like that. It's really more of a joke that I'm saying it because, I'm not that cool, but, when you're a dorky white guy and you use what is considered cool, it's kind of a mini joke. It's like, hey, check me out. I'm using this slang even though I know I don't look like, I don't look like one of the cool folks that use this slang. I don't know. But, so in the world of, in the hippie world, I'm sort of a neo-hippie. In the neo-hippie world, they have words like puff, which means smoke weed, or they have words like you go to the show. Show is a concert, I mean, this is old slang. It's from the 90s. It's not hip anymore unless you're in our group. And, I say these things, but to me, it's just another dumb version of slang. All these words that I never really, I can't get into slang particularly unless it's as a joke. That's pretty much the only way I see slang as being worthwhile is as a joke. I would never take it seriously, and I don't know. I guess it's not even just, mainstream hip-hop slang that bothers me, but really all slang bothers me to some extent. Because it's just kind of, again, it's exclusionary. It's meant to keep certain groups out. Maybe it's meant to keep everyone out. Maybe people think they're cool. They're talking in code and only, their group and understand it. I don't know. I mean, if they're not trying, if mainstream hip-hop culture is not trying to exclude white people by coming up with new slang, then who are they trying to exclude? Old people? People that, that's probably a lot of it. They probably are trying to exclude old people. I don't like that either. I don't like excluding old people, I differ with Kurt Cobain on this because he thinks it's terrible that, Kurt Cobain seemed to think that every generation should differentiate itself from the previous generation. I think every generation will differentiate themselves from the previous generation naturally, and that there's no reason to create a intentional division between old and young or, cool, not cool. I don't like divisions that are created intentionally, and that's what all slang seeks to do, is to sort of, create cliques, create groups that are in the know and people that aren't. I think a lot of the reason why hippies use slang is because they don't want the cops to find out about, illicit activities, potentially. So we come up with code for mostly drug use. There's a lot of code for drug use in the hippie community. I think that's pretty much designed to keep cops from, being able to. I mean, it's an old thing. The cops don't even care about us anymore. Really, there's a lot of, free drug use going on. But I don't know. I guess I don't feel like hip hop slang is meant to do the same thing necessarily, or maybe it is. It could be to exclude the cops. I mean, if you're excluding the cops, I guess I understand the way they've treated you. Maybe you need some words to exclude the cops, but I don't know. Generally, I think slang is dumb. I think it's a dumbed down version of English that that sort of ends up making you sound, less educated. And also, I want to say I watched this video of black Africans talking about the difference between their culture and American culture, and they said something similar, which reminded me of what I was saying, and that is that they really value education more. African people black people from Africa, I mean, seem to, think of education as, a way out of poverty and, is respected. You don't want to be using, dumb slang in their society as much. But, it's almost, that was one of the other things I said to this guy responded to me. It's kind of expected for you to take on this kind of thug persona, amongst those people who are followers of mainstream hip-hop culture. Not black people, but those people who are followers of hip-hop culture. They kind of judge other black people for not adopting that slang, not adopting that persona. Maybe they're sold an image of themselves by powerful white people that is wrong. Maybe they've been fooled. I don't know. I wonder how much of hip-hop culture is perpetuated by powerful, wealthy white guys who are trying to create an image of a thuggish black man, Somebody who can't use educated full sentences, somebody who only cares about women and and money, and not trivial things. I mean, those things matter, but there's not a lot of depth in mainstream hip hop lyrics. It's all just bragging, constant bragging. That's all it is. And I don't know. It's not deep thinking. It's animalistic thinking. I'm not saying that's how black people think. I'm saying that's the image that's portrayed by mainstream hip hop. And if black people wanted to, if they wanted to help shed that image, then they would, wag their fingers at mainstream hip hop, because mainstream hip hop is not a good look for black people. Just like, redneckism is not a good look for white people. Living in trailers. I mean, I don't have a problem if you have to live in a trailer because you're poor, but I'm just, the whole embracing of redneck culture, like Jeff Foxworthy, that makes us look stupid, and it's kind of celebrating ignorance and idiocy. That's what that whole redneck culture is. It's sort of reinforces to people that some white people just don't care about education. To me, mainstream hip hop and redneck culture are two sides of the same coin. That's what I'm saying. It's not a good look for redneck culture. It's not a good look for white people, and mainstream hip hop culture is not a good look for black people. And if white people were smart, we would remove the concept of redneckery from our behavior. And if black people were smart, they'd remove the concepts of mainstream hip hop culture from their identity. And so yeah, I guess is there anything else I wanted to say? I wanted to look at what else I said. I wanted to say, of course, I don't understand the black struggle because I'm not black. I don't deal with regular discrimination. I just wanted to say that I don't discriminate. If I had a chance to hire two people, if I was hiring someone, I'm never going to hire someone because I'm never going to be in that position of power. But if I ever had the chance to hire two, if I had two candidates, one was black, one was white, I would give less of a crap which one was black, I would not show white favoritism. I mean, as long as they, whoever had whoever I vibed with the most, whoever's personality I vibe with, and I guess that's one of the things, it's like, I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I was trying to go off into another direction, but basically, as long as it's not even so much who I vibe with, but it would be, who is the most qualified, and who do I feel fits in the best in that situation. And a black person is just as capable of being able to do that as a white person. But if you're it's going to be a lot different. Let's say you had, say I was employing a scientist, to discover something. This is totally ridiculous. I'll never be doing this. But, let's say that, I have two scientists to pick from. One is Bill Nye. The other is Neil deGrasse Tyson. I use a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson references, but just because he's the only black scientist I even know. Or at least modern day black scientist I know. So, if I had to pick between those two guys, I don't think, I don't really know who has the better qualifications there. I imagine Neil deGrasse Tyson's probably considered more, he's, I don't know, they hold a similar place in the scientific world. But, if I asked Bill Nye to explain, evolution to me, and I asked Neil deGrasse Tyson to explain evolution to me, whoever did the better job explaining it to me would get the job. If it was about explanation, I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent here. I don't know where I brought that whole thing up, but as usual, let me just keep looking through here to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, I don't know what it's like to be black, clearly, but I think I still deserve to express sympathy and empathy for black people's difficulty with the police. And like I said, I think that more black people give other black people a hard time for adopting white culture than white people give black people a hard time for adopting white culture. But I could be wrong on that. I don't know. I don't even know if that's true. Let's see. And the other thing is that I think that the important thing that black people need to understand is, your oppression needs to be blamed on racist, rich white people. They're the ones with control. They're the ones who are dominating and oppressing you and showing prejudice and favoritism. Poor white guys have no control over your fate. None. We have nothing to do with it. So, and we should all hate the rich white people together. This is one of the reasons why I'm wondering what happened to the Black Panther kind of spirit. That seemed more up my alley. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were, it was more of a revolutionary vibe. And now it's like, it seems as if black people are just as wrapped up in trying to achieve success that our culture, prescribes for people as white people are, and I don't want to see that either. I don't want to see black people wanting to drive around, Mercedes or, wanting to, buy mansions and these kinds of things. That's just not, I don't know, that's not as cool as when you were the Black Panthers. What happened to that revolutionary spirit? You don't really see that a lot, and I don't know if that's just because white people, it could just be because white people have snuffed out any appearance of that in popular media. It wasn't appearing a lot back in the 60s. But I would like to see more kind of action by black people that's rallying around rich white people rather than just, the idea of discrimination in general. It seems like whenever you have these kind of marches and things like that, that the vibe isn't so much directed at the wealthy and the powerful as it is at discrimination in general. And I think it should be acknowledged that where this discrimination is coming from is wealthy white people. The average white person has nothing to do with it. There is still plenty of white people, mostly in the South, who discriminate against black people. There's plenty of white people everywhere that's discriminated against black people, but especially in the South of America. And, we're fighting a common enemy, is what I'm saying. Most of the average Joe white guys like me don't want discrimination any more than black people do. We can't really fight against discrimination the way you do because we don't deal with it. So we can try to be there, we can help, we can offer our support, but it's hard for us to fight the same thing. But I just want to make sure it's made clear that when protesting discrimination, it should be targeted at the wealthy and powerful, because it is the wealthy and powerful white man that is oppressing black people, not everybody. And I think if black people want to, or at least those in the mainstream hip-hop culture, should come to the realization that their message, that their message makes their race look worse. That mainstream hip-hop culture is a stain on it creates more stereotypes for black people than it really should, and it's stupid. Mainstream hip-hop culture is stupid, and redneck culture is stupid, and both should be gone forever, and the slang both use should be gone forever, and there should be a new culture built, or maybe a greater promotion of the underground hip-hop, greater promotion of conscious hip-hop, more messages like fight the power, like like the Black Panthers once said, and less kind of pointless bragging and stuff that's meant to be divisive, and stuff that's that really doesn't make black people look intelligent. And I guess that's it. This one didn't really go as I hoped, but whatever.